Ice Troll is in the DorkLair. Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Mythic Legion's Ice Troll from the Soul Spiller wave. That wave went up for pre-order around, I think, like August or September, maybe. I think around August of 2018. So we're looking at a little bit under a year for the pre-order to release. And it was a smaller wave. This is the wave that had Kauros, which I also picked up. And it had the Frost Elf and Ragna Stormforger, sort of a barbarian northern warrior type character. I picked up those two female characters as well, but that was a second order after I kind of hemmed and hawed over it and regretted not adding them, and then I added them, and so I got a second shipment coming in soon. So this is the Ice Troll, and I think the price was an even $100 for pre-order. It's a big giant thing. It's sort of lacking in articulation, but where it lacks there, it makes up in character. I mean, just look at this dude. He's so massive. It's just humongous. Like this sword right here, like I can wield it in my hand like a weapon for a regular human. I mean, this thing is gigantic. I can barely maneuver it around my review space because it's just so big. I gotta kind of pull it forward and get the sword to move around and stuff. But yeah, like this guy is sweet. So let's get into this review. All right, taking a look at the packaging on this beast. This thing is huge. I don't even know where to stand right now because it's just so large. I have my camera like way far back and I'm just in a very awkward position right now. Anyway, so just kind of looking at it, I'm doing this part first because I don't know what's going to happen when I take this thing out. Like, is the packaging even going to survive? I don't know. So I just left it in there to film this part just to get the full thing. So this side here has, I believe this is the same box, essentially, besides this, as the original Troll. So they've been kind of teasing this guy for a long time. And, he's just coming out now. But it's been sort of expected that this was going to come out. And then there's a little bio for specifically the Ice Troll over here on the side, on the back. The scene is dire. I mean, it's like Gorgo Etherblade has probably like a stone troll or something behind him. And it's just fire and brimstone. On this side, you have the Mythic Legion's sort of like the general story over here. And then you have credits down here for the designers and the box art and the the founders of the company and all that stuff. And then back around to the front. So really it's just massive. I'd like to keep the box. If I can find a purpose for this box after he's out, like storing some stuff in there, maybe I'll just store like a bunch of empty boxes in there just so I can keep it. I don't know, but it's huge. Like, just look at the size of the thing. I mean, here's Kauros next to it. Like, the box is gigantic. So, but yeah, pretty cool packaging, in my opinion. All right, so taking a look at the paint sculpt and detail on this troll. The head is just stunning. You've got these white, almost sort of zombie-like eyes, lifeless kind of eyes. And they have that like shading around them that really fades out and into sort of like these shiny parts where you have essentially like the mouth, the teeth, the nostrils, things like that have like a gloss to them, a not accidental kind of gloss. It's and the tongue is shiny and it's painted with a nice wash, and the teeth are filthy. And oh my gosh, this thing is just incredible. Just look at the bone structure on the horn here, and that really kind of has that feel to it. Like, it contrasts with the shininess of the teeth and stuff, so it doesn't just feel like the same stuff over again. It feels definitely like more of a unique piece. I think those might be separate pieces glued in up there, and it's like hard to get this beast into the shot, but with the space I have. Anyway, like, his flesh, as you can see, is sort of speckled throughout with this like fleshy color here, almost like he's got like these kind of scales and stuff that is sort of cracked and maybe like frostbitten flesh there. and that carries throughout the rest of the figure. You can get down into here, and he's got this nicely sculpted beard. And just look at this head. Like, they could probably repaint this and do something more towards like fire, almost Balrog-like. It makes me kind of think of like a Balrog in Lord of the Rings or something like that. And then coming around to the back, look at that flesh, sort of this icy, cracking texture to it, where you have this base blue and this white over the top of that, and then these sort of pink parts. Very cool looking figure. And then bringing it down to the wrists, he has these like what almost look like shackles around him, like he was sort of enslaved or something like that, or captured at some point. And and then into the belt, same kind of metallic look to it, almost iron or something. And then he's got this skirt or loincloth that's got a couple different types of fabric pieces. So this piece is almost more like carpety, and then this piece is more like fur, with some nice coloring in there too. Really sweet. There's no joint in the knees, and then as you kind of get into the joint at the hips, there's like almost like a sumo sort of loincloth thing going on there. And it's just, I've never reviewed a figure this big before, so pardon my awkwardness. And then just looking at the fingernails, those are also a little bit glossy, cracked, very sort of realistic looking nails. And down into the toes, same thing, at the 3 toes, same kind of nails there. But just sculpting is superb on this. It's really quite cool. He's got sort of like this slothy gut. I think for the most part, they're the same sculpt throughout the different trolls. But you can see, again, like you have this really heavy white dry brush over the top of the blue flesh there. And yeah, so this is a really cool looking figure. It is massive. So let's take a look at how he scales up with some other figures. All right, so first up, the blood armor over here, Vorgus Vormilius, a 1.0 knight type build. And then a 2.0 regular sort of elf frame here with the shadow elf, and then finally a goblin body type next to him. So you can get a sense of how massive this dude is, especially next to the other Mythic Legions. And for those of you who maybe aren't super familiar with the line, just to get a sense of how big this dude is, here is I figure Arctic Luke from Hoth would be fitting, much larger than a Wampa. And then a Mezco 112 Collective Batman, armored tactical suit Batman from Justice League. And for accessories, he just comes with the one sword, and this thing is massive. I mean, look at it in my hand. It's like I can wield it like a dagger in my own hand. And so this sword's pretty cool. It's got like a clear hollow plastic here, and throughout the plastic there's all sorts of cracks, giving it a frosted sort of icy look to it. It's basically a blade of ice. And then into the handle is very like iron like, almost stone. But yeah, so really cool looking sword. And it goes into his hand pretty well. The only thing is I'm currently already getting a little bit of paint rub there, which doesn't really bother me, but it might bother other people. So the paints, I guess I'd rather have this dark paint rub off onto his hand than say like hit the paint from his hand rub off onto this, which it's not doing as far as I can tell. So at least there's that, but there is a little bit of paint rub. So, just be aware of that. There's really, in my opinion, I don't know that there's much of a way around it. Maybe heat his hand up a little and try to open it up a little bit more. But the paint rub's probably going to happen. I don't really mind it because I'm going to probably just have this sword in his hand for the most part anyway. And so, it fits in there pretty well. I don't have it positioned great in this shot right here, but yeah, he holds his sword really nicely, actually. And that's really it for the accessories. Okay, and for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, and it can kind of move around a little bit. Not a ton, but it can rotate, and it can kind of turn side to side a little bit. So you can get a little bit of action out of his head. Not a ton. You're not going to get a lot of articulation out of a figure like this. This thing is just so massive. I don't really think it would be possible, really, to do a lot of articulation on something like this. I mean, even like the hips here, like his own weight is already like pulling him out of his articulation points or like his position. So, you know, I'd prefer to not have too much articulation on something like this because it's just not going to hold its own weight. There's some ratcheting going on in the shoulders, and it makes me a little nervous because it's kind of tight, but so he can lift his shoulder up a little bit and then bring it back down, and then he can rotate it all the way around like that. And then the elbow both rotates and has a little bit of a ratcheting joint in there as well. Not a ton of movement. I mean, you're not even getting close to 90 degrees. That's about what you're going to get there. So that's the articulation in the elbow. And then the hand does rotate around a little bit as well. So you can kind of move around his sword and reposition it. This arm has the same articulation with the same ratchet up in the shoulders. And in the legs, the legs just are on a swivel right here. There's no knee articulation. And then there's a ball joint in the foot. So you can kind of move that around and get him to be flat-footed where you need to be. So, you know, articulation is obviously going to be limited on something like this, but it is a really cool figure. I think it was $100, and I'm like so pumped to have my first troll in the collection. This thing's going to be front and center in my display. I'm going to actually be really rearranging it completely just to fit this guy in and make sure that this is like the centerpiece of the Mythic Legions fantasy display. So thanks for watching. Be on the lookout for a couple other videos from the Soul Spiller wave. I will be reviewing Kauros, the Masters of the Universe Battle Cat tribute figure, Thalen Crossbow, the Frost Elf, and finally Ragna Stormforger, who is the like sort of barbarian Arctic warrior type. And until next time, may the Force be with you. DorkLair!